Private security guards are standing watch all over southeast Wisconsin tonight, and many of them are carrying pepper spray, batons, even handguns.
But what can a security guard legally do that you cannot? Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson shows you why the answer could be the difference between life and death.
When a Milwaukee security guard found himself in a deadly shootout at a Southside grocery store last summer, the district attorney's office said he acted reasonably. Family members of the man he killed say it was the guard who escalated the conflict. That's still to be determined in court. But our investigation finds what the security officer told police after the shootout may not match what was captured on a surveillance camera.
You got a gun, you got a gun.
Moments after he killed a man who just killed his partner.
So very sorry.
This security guard told Milwaukee police he had no choice.
At the end of the day, this is what I had. I'm going home.
But it's what happened before bullets started flying.
They chased him down and attacked him.
That is still the subject of a wrongful death lawsuit.
It's not self-defense. You can't create the circumstances for your own defense.
Enoch Wilson is president of Marshall Public Safety,
I'm the boss.
a private security agency with a contract to protect El Rey supermarkets. Last summer, 36-year-old Luis Lorenzo walked into the El Rey near 16th and Mineral carrying a bag, which, according to police reports, was against store policy.
Did Mr. Lorenzo commit a crime when he was in the store?
He did not commit any crime, and I think that's clear.
Surveillance video shows Lorenzo waiting in line for tacos when a security guard, 59-year-old Anthony Nolden, approaches. They argue. Then the guard walks him to the front door. Lorenzo sets down his bag, squares up like he's ready to fight, then picks his bag up again and starts to walk away. Nolden walks after him with a canister of pepper spray in hand.
There's no reason for him to do that.
When the two appear on a parking lot surveillance camera 8 seconds later, Lorenzo is running away and wiping his eyes as though he's just been sprayed. And that's when Wilson enters the picture.
Mr. Wilson pulls in at a high rate of speed, exits his squad car, and begins running at Mr. Lorenzo, who's already running away from Mr. Nolden.
Wilson chases Lorenzo through the parking lot, and when he catches up, he deploys pepper spray too, not once, but twice. The two men grapple their way across the parking lot before Wilson throws him to the ground. And as Nolden catches up, Lorenzo pulls out a gun and shoots Nolden.
Then he reached back and shot at me.
Wilson jumps back, then returns fire.
And I've shot him.
In a matter of seconds,
we have two deceased.
A security guard,
I'm angry,
and a grocery store customer are both dead.
All right, we got to close the store. Okay.
The Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office declined to charge Wilson with a crime, writing that Wilson was acting in self-defense and that it was reasonable to believe Lorenzo needed to be detained because he saw him running.
There's nothing bad you could say about Tony.
Wilson did not respond to our request for an interview, but the Lorenzo family's attorney did.
It certainly would not have happened if they would have allowed him to leave, which is what they should have done.
William Sultan is suing Marshall Public Safety, Enoch Wilson, and El Rey Enterprises on behalf of the Lorenzo estate, accusing the security company of creating the deadly conflict by overstepping its authority.
Private security persons are not police officers. They do not have police powers.
That's true, but what can security guards do that other private citizens cannot?
See, that's where a lot of questions come up.
If anyone should know, it's Tom Sippen. He's a veteran firearms instructor who helped write some of the state's private security regulations decades ago.
Using force against another person in the state of Wisconsin is highly controlled, and in most cases, it's illegal.
He says Wisconsin law only allows security guards to detain someone in limited circumstances. For instance, if they're suspected of stealing.
If he believed that there was a theft, a retail theft, they have the right to use reasonable force to chase them and not just, to detain them.
Otherwise, a private security officer has no more authority than any other private person to make a citizen's arrest.
It's a common law privilege.
To do that, the Wisconsin Attorney General's office says a security guard has to have probable cause to believe a felony has been committed, or must personally observe a misdemeanor that constitutes a breach of the peace.
Violence is the key.
In other words, running is not enough.
Running by itself, courts have held up that it's not a reason to stop somebody.
Mr. Lorenzo was not stealing anything, was not hurting anybody, and was not committing a crime. And so you really have to ask yourself, why were these folks running after him in a parking lot?
Is he just running, or is he running because of something that happened?
Just called for assistance. I responded.
Wilson told police he had no idea why Nolden summoned him for backup, but when he arrived, he saw Nolden and Lorenzo tussling.
I just bumped into them in the middle of this aisleway right here, tussling.
In fact,
They were in this middle aisle right here, kind of tussling.
he said it 3 times.
Do you know why the tussle was
I don't know
going
what
on?
the tussle happened.
The videos show no physical contact between Nolden and Lorenzo at all. Still, a police officer who reviewed the tape said it was generally consistent with Wilson's description.
The confrontation happened because they forced the action.
It's not the first time Wilson has been accused of using unnecessary force. In 2019, he held 2 men at gunpoint in their own apartment complex and was accused of kicking and stepping on one of them and holding him in a Marshall Public Safety squad car for 45 minutes. That case led to a legal settlement. But not only did the Department of Safety and Professional Services take no action, they didn't even investigate.
The state really doesn't hold them accountable.
Since 2017, DSPS has received 7 complaints against Marshall Public Safety, none of which has resulted in disciplinary action, including 2 that accuse the company of using badges, uniforms, and squad cars that closely resemble real law enforcement.
Make citizens believe that you're more official, you're police.
One complaint accused Wilson of using flashing red lights that are only allowed by statute on emergency vehicles. But when a DSPS lawyer tried to get him to remove the lights, Wilson refused, challenging the state's interpretation of the law. And the state dropped the case.
They've been understaffed for a long time.
I think the state can and must do more here.
On the Marshall Public Safety website, Wilson says his security guards have more power and authority than a police officer because they're not bound by constitutional restraints like the Fourth Amendment.
What message is that sending?
Well, it sends the wrong message.
Sultan says that's a message that leads to escalation and puts public safety at risk. Prosecutors declined to file criminal charges against Enoch Wilson last summer. However, the wrongful death lawsuit is ongoing. Parties are next due in court April 24th. The Department of Safety and Professional Services says it has 2 complaints pending against Wilson and Marshall Public Safety, apparently related to the El Rey incident. A spokesperson declined our request for an interview. In the newsroom, Brian Polson, Fox 6 Investigators.
At the time of the El Rey shooting, both Enoch Wilson and Anthony Nolden had DSPS firearm permits that were expired. But prosecutors say those permits are now optional. Tomorrow night, here on Fox 6 News at 9, Fox 6 investigators show you the change in state law that has some security guards carrying guns on the job with hardly any training.
Looking forward to that for sure.